All right, Yankees fans, buckle up because the offseason rumors are heating up and things in the Bronx are starting to get wild. There's talk flying everywhere about free agents, trades, and what the Yankees plan to do next to finally build a team that can get back to the World Series. And right in the middle of all this chaos, you've got Aaron Judge's situation hanging over everything like a cloud. His health, his role, his future, everything seems to circle back to him. But let's dive into the heart of what's got everyone talking. The Yankees possibly making a huge splash with none other than Pete Alonso. Now, when this first popped up, it almost sounded like one of those off-season fantasies that fans come up with just for fun. The idea of Pete Alonso, one of the biggest stars from the New York Mets, crossing town and putting on pinstripes, it's the kind of move that would light the city on fire. But according to a new report, the Yankees have actually been listed as one of the favorites to land him. That alone tells you how serious this front office is about retooling, not rebuilding, this roster. And make no mistake, this isn't about tearing things down. The Yankees don't rebuild. They reload. And they plan to reload in a big way as Aaron Judge gets ready for what'll be his age 35 season. The Yankees know they can't waste another year. The pitching staff is in decent shape, but the lineup has holes that need patching, and the front office knows it. First base is one of those question marks that's getting a lot of attention. You've got Ben Rice, a young guy who impressed last season and gave the team some life, but there's still debate about whether he's the long-term answer. He's solid, he's developing, and he's cheap. But is he ready to be your starting first baseman on a team that expects to win a championship next season? That's what Brian Cashman and company have to figure out. And then comes Pete Alonso, a name that brings instant star power. He's a proven power hitter, one of the best sluggers in baseball, but he's also a player who's about to command a massive contract. Reports say he wants a 7-year deal. That's 7 years of big money for a guy who can absolutely crush baseballs, but doesn't exactly add much value on the bases or in the field. The Yankees would basically be paying for the bat and hoping it holds up over time. And let's not forget, Alonso's asking price isn't just financial, it's emotional too. The idea of him leaving the Mets for the Yankees would send shockwaves through New York. We've rarely seen star players make that kind of move between these two franchises, and if it happens, it's going to be one of the biggest storylines in baseball. But beyond the drama, let's talk baseball. Last season, Alonso hit .272 with 38 home runs and an OPS north of .870. That's elite production, no doubt about it. The man can hit. But does that really solve the Yankees' biggest issue? Because if we're being honest, the Yankees don't need another all-or-nothing power hitter. They already have that in guys like Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. What they've been missing for years now is consistent contact hitting and smart base running. The teams that have beaten them in October, the Astros, the Rangers, the Rays, they all do the little things right. The Yankees haven't been able to keep up in that department. If the Yankees signed Pete Alonso, yes, the offense would get scarier in terms of raw power, but it wouldn't necessarily get more balanced. You'd be building another lineup full of heavy hitters who can't always put the ball in play when it matters most. And that's been their downfall. When you need a single to move a runner over, when you need a sacrifice fly to get that run home, when you need someone to just make contact, this version of the Yankees often comes up empty. So will Alonso fix that? Not really. He'd make the lineup louder, not necessarily better. Now, if you compare him to someone like Josh Naylor from the Guardians, you start to see what kind of hitter might actually make more sense for the Yankees. Naylor isn't the kind of guy who will hit 40 bombs a year, but he's a better contact hitter and a more reliable base runner. That's exactly the type of player the Yankees have been missing. But of course, those kinds of players don't make headlines. They don't sell jerseys the way a guy like Pete Alonso does. That's part of what makes this situation so tricky. The Yankees are always chasing that perfect mix of star power and practicality, and it's not easy to find. And don't forget, they already have Ben Rice in the mix. He's still young, still developing, but last season he gave fans something to get excited about. He hit .255 with 26 home runs, posted an OPS over .830, and showed flashes of real potential. He's not there yet, but he's close. And unlike Alonso, he can actually move around the bases and has room to improve defensively. You could argue that sticking with Rice and letting him grow into the role might be smarter long-term than handing out a 7-year contract to Alonso, especially when you consider how much the Yankees already have tied up in big contracts. But here's where things get interesting. Ben Rice's name keeps coming up in trade discussions. According to multiple reports, teams have been calling the Yankees about him, and it's not just random interest. They really like what they see. The Yankees, understandably, don't want to move him unless it's for a star. If they trade him, it would have to be part of a blockbuster deal for a major player, someone who can make an immediate impact. And that's where the whole Alonso thing gets more complicated. If the Yankees were to trade Ben Rice for a shortstop or a third baseman and then go sign Alonso to fill first base, it could make sense. You'd replace the power you lost and fill another hole in the lineup. But if they keep Rice, adding Alonso on top of that would feel redundant. And let's circle back to Aaron Judge. His elbow has been a talking point for months now, and it's not going away. After that final series against the Blue Jays, Judge was asked about his elbow, and his response didn't exactly calm anyone down. He said they'd do some work on it and get it right, but when asked if surgery might be on the table, he said, "I'm not a doctor." I don't know. That's not the kind of answer that gives confidence to fans. Remember, Judge had that flexor strain in his right elbow that limited his throwing last season. It forced him to spend more time at designated hitter while Stanton played in the outfield. That's not ideal. If this becomes a long-term issue, the Yankees might need to think about what that means for Judge's future position on the field. Could he move to first base full-time at some point? It's not impossible. And if that's the case, then signing Pete Alonso becomes even more complicated. Because if Judge can't play outfield regularly, and Alonso is locked in at first base for the next 7 years, where does that leave your lineup flexibility? These are the kinds of decisions that go beyond one signing or one trade. They define how the roster is built for the next several seasons. The Yankees can't afford to get this wrong. They already saw how long-term deals can backfire when players get older or injuries pile up. They've been down that road before with guys like Mark Teixeira and Anthony Rizzo late in his career. Still, the allure of Pete Alonso in pinstripes is hard to ignore. It would be one of the boldest moves the Yankees could make, and it would send a message not just to fans, but to the rest of baseball. The rivalry angle alone would be insane. Imagine Alonso hitting bombs in Yankee Stadium while Mets fans watch from across town. It would be the kind of chaos that only New York baseball can produce. And even though it would drive Mets fans crazy, you can't deny that it would make headlines everywhere. At the same time, baseball decisions can't be made just for the drama. The Yankees need to focus on building a complete, modern roster that can hit for contact, run the bases smartly, and play solid defense behind a strong pitching staff. Power alone won't win in October. We've seen it time and time again. The Yankees have had stacked lineups full of sluggers before, but when the postseason arrives, those home runs dry up and the offense stalls. What they need is balance. And the question is whether Pete Alonso helps achieve that or just adds more of the same. Now here's the thing, Yankees fans, when you start breaking the situation down layer by layer, it's clear that the front office has some massive decisions to make this offseason, and none of them are simple. Because while the idea of Pete Alonso blasting home runs into the short porch in right field sounds great, every move the Yankees make now has to fit into a much bigger plan. They've already spent years chasing power, and it hasn't brought them closer to a championship. The fans are tired of seeing lineups that can't move runners over, can't hit with 2 strikes, and can't manufacture runs when the home runs disappear. If the Yankees are going to bring in Alonso, they better have a plan that balances everything else out. But then again, this is the Yankees we're talking about. They love stars. They thrive on the big names and big contracts that make headlines across the league. It's what this franchise has always been about, going after the best talent available and worrying about the details later. And when you look at the free agent market this year, Alonso stands out as one of the biggest bats out there. So, it's no surprise that the Yankees are right in the mix. They see a chance to strike, to make a move that changes the conversation, and maybe even to steal a player from across town just for the satisfaction of it. That's classic Yankees. But let's not forget what's happening with the rest of the roster. Shortstop still feels uncertain. Third base is unsettled, and the outfield situation depends on how the team handles Cody Bellinger's free agency. They've got Jason Dominguez waiting in the wings, and when he's healthy, he's one of the most exciting young players they've had in years. You've also got Jazz Chisholm, a spark plug who adds speed and energy, but the Yankees still lack that one consistent leadoff hitter who can set the tone. That's been a hole since DJ LeMahieu started battling injuries. The Yankees can't afford to ignore that again, especially if they're serious about competing with teams that have lineups built around contact and versatility. And while all of this is happening, the Aaron Judge question keeps looming. Every comment about his elbow gets dissected. Every offseason report about his training becomes news. Fans love Judge. He's the captain, the face of the franchise, the heart of the team. But the reality is that his health is going to shape how the Yankees operate. If Judge's elbow limits him in the field long term, you can't fill first base with someone who's going to be immovable for nearly a decade. That's where the idea of keeping Ben Rice around makes even more sense. He's flexible, he's improving, and he gives the Yankees options. Ben Rice also brings something that's been missing in the Bronx lately: hunger. You can see it in how he plays. He's still proving himself, and that attitude has been contagious. Veterans like Judge and Stanton have been there long enough to understand the grind, but you need those young players who play like every game matters. Rice gives them that. And when you combine that energy with talent, you have something special. So, unless the Yankees can use him as a piece to get a true superstar, someone who changes everything, it makes sense to hold on to him. And yes, there's that idea floating around that the Yankees could use Ben Rice in a package deal for a big arm. Some people have mentioned names like Tarek Skubal from Detroit, or even Paul Skenes if the Pirates were somehow willing to listen. That's the kind of move that actually makes sense for New York. If you're going to trade a young, controllable bat, do it for elite pitching that locks down your rotation for years. Because at the end of the day, as much as this team needs more balance offensively, they also need to keep building that dominant pitching staff that can carry them through October. Now, let's say the Yankees do pull the trigger and sign Pete Alonso. What does that lineup look like? You'd have Judge, Stanton, Alonso, Bellinger. If he returns, Dominguez, Chisholm, maybe even Anthony Volpe developing into a more complete hitter. That's a lot of talent, a lot of power, and potentially a lot of strikeouts. It would be a lineup that could blow teams away on some nights and go completely quiet on others. The key is whether Aaron Boone and the coaching staff could get them to play more situational baseball, to move runners, to grind out at-bats. Because power alone doesn't win championships anymore. The game has evolved. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. In what could go down as one of the most shocking moves in recent baseball memory, whispers are swirling through the league that the New York Yankees have reportedly pulled off a blockbuster trade to acquire Paul Skenes from the Pittsburgh Pirates. While official confirmation remains elusive, multiple insiders and anonymous sources close to both organizations have hinted that the deal is all but done, sending shockwaves through the baseball world. Skenes, the 2023 number 1 overall pick and one of the most electrifying young arms in the game, has already established himself as a generational talent. His combination of overpowering fastballs, icy composure, and showman charisma has made him a fan favorite in Pittsburgh and a national sensation. To imagine him now wearing pinstripes is almost surreal, a move that perfectly fits the Yankees' long-standing reputation for making headlines when no one expects it. Speculation about the return package is rampant. The Yankees, who have been hunting for an ace to pair with Garrett Cole, may have paid a steep price. Some insiders suggest the deal could involve a mix of top prospects. Names like Jason Dominguez, Spencer Jones, or even Anthony Volpe have been whispered in late-night conversations. Others believe the Yankees' deep pockets and aggressive front office simply found a way to make the impossible happen. For the Pirates, this could mark a painful but pragmatic decision, a chance to accelerate their rebuild with a haul of young talent. Still, the thought of parting with Skenes, who is seen as the cornerstone of their future, will sting deeply in Pittsburgh. Fans have already taken to social media, some in disbelief, others furious at the front office for even considering the trade. If this rumor proves true, the balance of power in the American League could shift overnight. A rotation featuring Garrett Cole and Paul Skenes would be nothing short of terrifying for opposing hitters. And for Skenes, the bright lights of New York would offer the grandest possible stage for a young superstar who seems built for the spotlight. Nothing is official yet, but the baseball world is holding its breath. If the Yankees have indeed landed Paul Skenes, this might be the start of a new era in the Bronx. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.